You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game, and we will be doing lots of politics and lots of public policy this evening, and we're just going to jump right into the issues because we have, as our guest, Kristen McQueary, and she is an editorial board writer for the Chicago Tribune. She also writes a weekly column, which has only been going on for the last few weeks or so. Tuesday.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis. She's been doing it before, but every Tuesday, that's where you'll find her column. You'll find editorials she's written, but you're not going to know she wrote them because there are no bylines in editorials. But, okay, more about Kristen as we get into the show. But so we're going to do lots of stuff. We're going to talk about the governor's race. We're going to talk about the mayor's race. We're going to talk about history, what happened. But, you know, some of you, if I don't give you something good in the first minute, and I've already wasted a minute, you're turning it. So you want to know who's going to be the next governor of the state of Illinois. As of November, 6 months later, will it be Bruce Rauner? Will he be reelected? He's the Republican nominee for reelection. Or will it be J.B. Pritzker, the Democratic nominee? Will it be Sam McCann, a third-party candidate? Maybe Al Salve, Joe Walsh? Kristen McQueary? No, probably not Kristen. Okay, so Kristen, who will be the next governor come, I think it's November 6th, thereabouts, of 2018. Who will be the next governor for the state of Illinois? Will it be Rauner or somebody different?
I think if the election were held today, Governor-elect Pritzker is what we would be discussing. And that doesn't mean that things can't change. They can change very quickly in a campaign, as you know, but the numbers are with Pritzker right now, the turnout, the momentum, and Rauner has struggled. He doesn't have his base, and he had a serious challenge in the primary. I don't know that he's going to be able to draw those voters to his side.
Which voters?
The conservative base of the party that voted for Jeannie Ives
And
over
how many
him.
of them were there?
You have the numbers, 340,000.
340. Are all of those difficult to get, or were a lot of those people not so much voting, they were annoyed with Bruce, but they'll come back? Or does he have a hard job getting all of those 340,000? Break that block up for me. How difficult is it a uniform block that he's really got a lot of trouble with? Or there's just, as Pat Brady might say, oh, Jeff, there are just a few haters out there. There's Tillman, there's Dan Proft, and maybe one or two others, but the others, Pat Brady, if you've seen our show with Pat, former state GOP chairman, Pat seems to say, yeah, he'll get him back. Just like Pritzker has a problem, he says, because he only got 45% of the vote. The majority of Democrats in the Democratic primary voted for either Biss or Chris Kennedy. So according to Pat Brady, well, Pritzker's got a problem getting all his Dems. Rauner's got a problem getting all his Republicans.
I think it's different.
Why is it different?
I think it's different because Pritzker's Democrats are not going to vote for Bruce Rauner. They're just not. The people who split and voted for Biss or any of the other candidates will kind of reluctantly vote for Pritzker. It's a different situation, I think, on the Republican side where the voting base that went with Jeannie Ives was on principle, and a lot of it was anger at his flip on HB 40 and voting for an expansion of abortion rights. And I think there will be enough of a segment of that population where they will not hold their nose and vote for Bruce Rauner. They will skip the race or not show up. And at this point, he needs every piece of that pie, every sliver, in order to drag this campaign across the finish line. And he doesn't have it right now.
And so in a nutshell, why are those people, why are they so upset with Bruce Rauner? The large numbers of the 340,000 who voted for Jeannie Ives, what is it? I think you mentioned a few things, but just give it to us, the whole list, real quick in like a minute.
He hasn't been able to get his turnaround agenda through, so there's a whole effectiveness question. Do you vote for him again and go through 4 more years of gridlock?
Did he get any reforms?
He did. He got a school choice program through. Yes, there were some other kind of watered down government consolidation things, but he didn't get.
Much, yeah.
What have we heard him talk about? Term limits, redistricting reform, property tax freeze, workers' comp. right-to-work zones, he started out talking about that.
He didn't
None
get
of
any of
that.
those.
He didn't get any of those.
No pension reform,
No pension reform. And again,
no Medicaid reform.
they have gotten some Medicaid reform. They do have somebody who's weeding through the Medicaid rolls and actually
Are they pruning
removing
them down?
people.
People who are like dead or living in another state
They
or
are,
something?
they are.
They're
but
able to do
there's
that.
not
Okay.
a lot of
Not a lot of that.
financial
Yeah.
benefit to that yet.
Okay.
But there were bills for all of these proposals, but it's a Democratic House and Senate, so they never advanced them. So they never got to his desk. He has to wear the jacket for that, even though he was blocked.
What else? What's the big thing? The really big thing, if you're a conservative, economic or social, what are the things, on the economic conservative, what's on your mind that you're really, you know that word that starts with a P, I won't say it, you're really upset, okay?
If you're an economic conservative,
In addition to not getting the reforms, what else bothers you?
well, we still have an income tax hike. He did veto it, but he wasn't able to corral Republicans because 15 of them split and voted. So you have an income tax hike with no reform, basically, which does not please them. And the social conservatives, of course, are extremely upset with the expansion of public funding of abortion. That is something he flipped on. He said he was going to veto that bill, and he hasn't.
We're just seeing maybe your mic is not right. Is it Mike?
Okay.
Oh, just move the cable.
Oh,
because
all right.
it's the
We can do that.
The aesthetics of
Oh, you just...
my great cameraman Alan Boss is
love it.
focused on aesthetics, man.
That's good.
why
How's
he
my
gets-
hair?
Yeah.
How's my hair? That's what we got to worry
You
about.
look so pretty. You're such a your husband. Oh, I'll get in so much trouble with
Yeah,
Paul,
just
isn't
stop,
it?
just
Because
stop,
I
just
said
stop,
you're pretty.
just
Yeah.
stop,
Oh, okay. A little
Anyway,
too much. Okay. So okay.
Economic and socially, he's in some trouble.
Yes, and that's a big point because the other thing you might add is that there was a $5 billion tax increase. He vetoed it, but some conservatives think he really didn't fight it. I mean, Alan Skillicorn says, and I think Jeannie I says, Alan's a state rep, Jeannie's a state rep who ran against him. He wasn't really calling a lot. He wasn't trying to get those Republicans, who the Democrats got, to pass it initially. It was like 15 Republicans. And they're saying he really wasn't trying.
I don't know how...
Do you think that's
I think that's true. I think
he
he
really
didn't-
wasn't trying.
He didn't start to make phone calls and try to pull them off until after they passed it,
Okay.
because some of them split. They voted for the tax hike, but then
Right.
they voted not to override him.
Right.
So they split.
But 10 stayed. There were still 10
Yeah.
who voted to override the veto. But the general point is, some Republicans say he really needed the revenue. He didn't know how he's going to get by. He's using it in the 2018 budget. He
It
didn't
was
say, "Here's
part of a
$5 billion."
budget deal.
Yeah.
It ended the budget impasse. But
Okay.
also, I think you have to remember that some of those Republicans had tough primaries in March. They voted for the tax increase, and they still got renominated. So there
Yeah.
are Republican districts
Where they
where
want
there is
that
a
stuff.
forgiveness. Yes.
Or there are some Republicans who want higher taxes. Some Republicans thought that was the thing to do to get a budget. Some Republicans work or affiliated with universities, higher education, that's getting some of that spending.
Right.
So there are some people like that. But still, if you're governor and you're the governor of the state of Illinois and you ran on keeping taxes low, and he really said, Quinn said, I'm going to raise your taxes. Quinn was above board about that when he ran.
He wanted a progressive
He
income
wanted-
tax the whole time he was
In
in office.
2014, Quinn was saying, I'm going to raise your taxes. Rauner said, it's going to sunset, but we're going to let it sunset, right?
Right.
Some people are saying, no, he told people he would raise. I mean, he didn't do that. So in other words, if he didn't really fight it, people
He
are really
vetoed
upset.
it. I mean,
Okay.
you can't. He did actually veto it. So
Okay.
So
Okay.
back to your initial question, like how many of these Republicans will come back? There are a significant number who I think will still vote for Rauner because they see him as the only
Any percentages you can
stopgap.
give me? Like out of the 340,000, either percentage or number, how many go with him at the end of the day with Rauner? How many give him his vote?
Most.
Like 90%?
I wouldn't go as high as 90, but
80?
if you are an active voter and you believe in your right to vote and you really want to stop a graduated income tax or whatever the Democrats are going to roll out, you will eventually come back around to him. But like we talked about, there is a very principled segment of the party where they will skip that race or they will stay home because
Or
of
they
his
will-
vote on HB 40.
Some of
his
those
signing of the
folks
bill.
will even vote for J.B. Pritzker You know Dan Proft, and you know he's got a radio show Monday. Here's a plug for Dan, our good friend Dan. Monday through Friday, WIND, 560 AM, The Answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he does these podcasts. You've been on these podcasts. What's that kind of, something stream? What's the word? Do you know what I mean?
Upstream ideas.
Yeah, you're like the star. Like you've been on there like 95 times, I think.
I think once.
Okay.
I think once.
But you know this guy Brian Timponi? He's been on
I
there.
do. Mm-hmm.
So Brian said, I think Brian, I hope I got it right, Brian, I'm quoting. I think Brian said he might vote for J.B. Pritzker. So
I think you'll
it's
have
like, it's even worse. It's one not to vote for Rauner, that's like a half a vote for Pritzker. But then if you go vote for Pritzker, it's a full vote, right? I mean, sort of that's the math.
I don't think there will be too many of Jeannie Ives supporters who will actually vote for J.B. Pritzker. And Ives has said herself that she will vote for Rauner.
But if they're like you said, he doesn't get 90%. So if he gets 80%, and others 20% stay home, we're talking 60, 70,000 voters, right?
He
I mean,
needs
possibly he could get 60,000 staying home.
He needs them. He needs every single one of them.
He can't,
and
how's he get
especially
them?
because Sam McCann is on the ballot, which we should talk about.
Yeah, that was a column. What was the date? We just talked
Late
April 24th, something
Mm-hmm.
like that?
Yeah.
Look
So
it up, Chicago Tribune. Okay.
Sam McCann is a very unusual Republican representing kind of southwest of Springfield in the state Senate. He is a very pro-public public employee union, social conservative Republican.
Right.
So he doesn't fit into any box, but he is pro-life. He is pro-Second Amendment. He will be one of those. He's an option. So when I'm talking about all of the pieces of the pie that Rauner needs, if he loses some of those social conservatives to Sam, he's in further trouble.
But the voters may not have the choice to give Sam their vote. And why would that be?
Sam
Ms.
McCann
McQueary?
has to get 25,000. He's running under a third party, so he didn't run in the primary. So now he has to get 25,000 signatures by, I think, June 25th. And his circulators, he can't use circulators who circulated for either the Democrat or the Republican Party because he is now running under the Constitution Party. It's not an established party in the state. Or no, it's the Conservative. He's running under the Conservative Party.
Yeah, it's a new party.
It's a new party. So because it's not established.
So you can't say that one more time about the circulators?
The circulators cannot have circulated for other candidates in the Democratic and Republican Party. So he has to find people who didn't circulate and didn't pull ballots in those.
And if they did either, if they circulated or if they pulled ballots for the Democrat or Republican primary,
Then that whole sheet of signatures can be challenged and tossed.
because they're not allowed to do that
under
the Illinois law.
Right. The Illinois law is written specifically as an incumbent protection plan and as a established party plan.
How much time does he have to get that?
June 25th.
So wow, we're at like June 25th. We're at May 3rd. He's got about 6-7 weeks.
He does, and 25,000 signatures, valid signatures.
Valid signatures.
Meaning he needs to get a little more than that. That's
but there's
a lot.
another way. For Sam or anybody else, what's the better way, the easier way to try to get on the ballot than starting from scratch?
I don't know. You tell me.
Find a third party that is willing to give you their slot. We were just talking before the show, we're not sure, but we think there are a few around. They got on the ballot previously, they got enough votes, so they sort of automatically get the slot, I believe. Or if they have to get signatures, it's way fewer than they would the 25,000. So people, I've not checked, because I don't work for the Tribune. See, great thing on the public affairs. I just throw out stuff, okay? Because I have no editors, I have no boss. I'm just completely free. It's like the best job in the world, seriously. Doesn't pay too well.
So we don't really know. So let's not put.
Well, okay.
I don't know if he can run under the Constitution Party since he's already declared that he's running under the Conservative Party. He's already filed paperwork.
Oh no,
as
forget
a Conservative
Sam.
Party. Oh,
forget Sam. He could, but look, Sam, the man, he ain't going to be governor. He may take it away from Rauner, attracting the social vote, but you know, the economic conservatives are never going to go with this guy. So he could get some votes. But is there somebody out there? Is there somebody out there who could satisfy the conservatives, who economic and social, and who could possibly pick up independent and democratic votes? Is there?
No, not in this amount of time.
But reliable sources tell me Okay, we can say that. That's allowed. We're in the, if I walked, okay, we're taping this, as you might see, in Krista McQueary's lovely organized office. And it's on the board that it's this entire floor. Fourth floor is the editorial board, pretty much. Much
You're
of
in
it.
the section.
Yeah, I'm with the thinkers, the opinion people. But if I wandered over to other areas, I might find the newsroom, and those people, they talk to what are known as reliable sources, don't they?
That's what I read.
Okay, so the reliable sources have told me Al Salvi. Al Salvi, maybe remember that name. He ran for office. He still has a lot of name recognition. He's an economic conservative. He's a social conservative. And then they said further, you know, Jeff, if he can get on like maybe the Libertarian ticket or the Constitution ticket, I'm just saying what they said, or some other one that's pre-existing, he's going to have a lot less work to do than getting on a new thing as a third party. So, assuming that's right, I'm not saying it is, Al Salvi is the candidate. Maybe, I know there is a candidate already for the Libertarians, maybe he steps aside. So assuming that happens, so now the choice is Al Salvi, Bruce Rauner, or J.B. Pritzker. Who wins that one?
JB. I mean, I actually think it's kind of silly to be talking about an Al Salvi candidacy right now. Bruce Rauner he's the incumbent governor. He had a tough primary, but he has, how much is he going to spend? $60, $70 million, $100 million. I think if you are even in the realm of being a Republican voter, he is still your best bet to defeat J.B. Pritzker over some of these other names we're talking about.
Okay, so I've just been called silly. I've been called a lot worse than that.
I think it's a silly idea.
Silly idea.
The
Is that right?
conversation is silly.
It's not an ad hominem attack. It's just a silly idea. She didn't say I'm a silly guy.
No,
Not
I
yet.
will. I do
If I
think you're
keep-
silly, but I didn't say that.
Anything else you want to sort of upload to my viewers
No,
and
but
friends?
I'm watching the clock, so let's talk about the mayor's race.
Okay.
I want to know what you think, since you just interviewed one of the candidates.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I do. I just go like from Paul Vallis, interviewing him, just hopping right over to interview Krista McQueary. So let's go to the mayor's. I'm accommodating. I had some other ideas in mind, but Kristen wants to go there. She's my boss. Okay. Do it, Jeff.
Keeping
Get
it
this
going.
over. Get this going. I love it. Okay. So who do we got? We got 8 candidates for mayor. We got, Paul Vallis, who I just mentioned. Of course, Rahm hasn't said he's a candidate for re-election yet, I don't think, right? It's not officially.
He's running.
He is running. Okay, so on the top, we got the guy who's there, and he's been there for 7 years. He's got to be the odds-on favorite, right?
Rahm at this point?
Right.
Yes, but I think Paul Vallis will put him in a runoff for sure.
Wow, that's a quick prediction. So forget these other 6. Should we even talk about them? Because according to Krista McQueary, the race is over, and it's Paul Vallis in a runoff with Rahm Emanuel, right?
I mean, it's possible. We can talk about some of these other
Anybody
candidates.
else who might?
I think Troy Ravier might actually get a little bit of traction. He was a former CPS principal who was ousted, has like a Bernie Sanders type following. And once these candidates get out and there are some debates, I could see him picking up some traction. But no, I think kind of the heavyweights right now are Rahm, Paul Vallis, maybe Gary McCarthy.
Wow.
To get kind of the public safety
Maybe
vote.
Gary, because, so the following of Troy, it's obviously the teachers' unions, right? Is it obvious? Well, he's a principal, but doesn't he's kind of sided with the teachers. He's not like management, is he?
I don't know that the teachers will be in one bucket.
They
in
really?
this
You don't
race.
think so on this?
I mean, CTU will obviously make an endorsement, but I think individual
Where do you
rank
think
and
the
file
CTU
teachers.
would go?
I don't know.
You think they could go with Rahm?
I doubt it.
You
no.
think they could go with Paul?
No.
Okay. So if not Troy, who else do they go with?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
because I don't know. They're going to look for whoever is going to
So
be
let's be fair here. So,
going to
okay.
protect their pensions. and
So
promise
there's
raises.
Willie Wilson,
There's Willie
You can
Wilson.
find him.
He got almost 10% of the vote last time.
right?
They're
He's
not-
more experienced now. He knows more about this. He's got more
has
of a
a following.
team, more of an organization. And, I hate to mention race, but it's there. I mean, Rahm and Paul are 2 white guys, as Laura Washington might put it, my good friend Laura Washington. They're 2 white guys. She doesn't pull punches. And why is that important, Kristen?
This is a very, this is a very political city, and politics falls along racial lines. And
What's
Dorothy
the
Brown
yeah.
is also in the race, and if her legal problems don't catch up with her, she has a following as well. She's pretty popular in the Black community.
She's been elected official, Circuit Court of Cook County clerk for like forever, right?
18 years, I think, 15 years, something like that.
Okay, so she's got name recognition.
Yeah.
She has a following, and she is African American. And how much of the population of the city of Chicago roughly is African American?
I don't know.
About a third? So a
I
third
would say,
Hispanic, a third black, and a third white. A little bit off, but those are numbers. So race counts. So there's Dorothy, and we hope you'll come on, Public Affairs Dorothy, and we hope Ram will come on. And there's Gary McCarthy. Who was and is Gary McCarthy?
Former superintendent who was ousted after the Laquan McDonald scandal, and he's kind of running. He has an interesting message too. So does Paul Vallis, but he basically says that Ram is not likable, and having worked alongside him for as many years as he did, he saw that, and I'm just quoting Gary McCarthy, that Ram doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit Ram, that he's not a true public servant. And that is a message that is appealing among voters, too. And Vallis touched on that a little bit in his campaign kickoff.
And Gary, who's 58, and Ram is 58, so they're the same age. Gary worked for Ram, so does that give him some credibility until he was fired by Ram? How does that come into play?
I mean, I think they both have this problem, obviously, with the Laquan McDonald
What's the problem?
tape. They didn't release it. And Gary McCarthy is on record saying it was under investigation and he didn't think it should be released. But the whole question is, was it suppressed? Was there a cover-up in order to get Ram through that last election? So
What does Ram say about the
No, that it was under investigation. It was finally released when the courts told them they had to release it.
Did Ram say that he saw it? Because somebody knew about the tape apparently in the city law department maybe 3 weeks after the incident, right?
If there's a big smoking gun there, I would think Gary McCarthy would know about it, but we have not heard anything along those lines.
So Ram says he didn't see it until it came out publicly.
I believe, but I don't want to speak. I don't know specifically.
Okay, but we'll come back to that, round out the list here. So we mentioned Paul Vallis, we mentioned Rahm Emanuel, the current mayor. Paul, 64, Rahm's 58, if that matters. Gary McCarthy's 58. Troy LaRaviere. I won't try. Kristen's here to help me. He's 47. He's got a following. He's got the principals. He may have the teachers. He may even have the Chicago Teachers Union endorsement. You're saying it's not that important because it's not going to be as monolithic as it's been in the past, if it's been monolithic. Okay, rounding it out. So we mentioned Willie Wilson, who's 69, who's a mega millionaire, who's done very well in business and came to Chicago in 65 with the shirt on his back and, as he said, in his shoes and a few other things, and making $2 an hour mopping floors, and now he's a mega millionaire. He says he knows how to manage, and he's fair, and he'll be fair to the entire community, including African Americans. And he says Ram doesn't do that stuff. That's Willie and more. We'll take a look at his show that I did with him. And Dorothy Brown, 64, and the two people I haven't mentioned, Neil Salas Griffin, who's a young tech entrepreneur, 30. We don't know too much about Neil. We'll learn more. Neil, come on the show, get in touch. And Jamal Green, who's young, 22, and sort of, some people say, identified with groups like Black Lives Matter. And Jamal, you come on the show. We'll give everybody a fair shot. All 8, including Paul, come on back. Race. We only have, somehow I've covered up my thing, but we got a few minutes left. We got, who knows how much. We'll find out how much time we have left. So the African American community, going back to Harold Washington, they had a strong leader then. Who they got now, and what are they looking for? Can you even speak to that?
I mean, there are a lot of leaders in the African American community. Like I said earlier, I think some of the candidates running could emerge in that way, like a Troy LaRaviere or a Willie Wilson. Although I've heard some criticism of him that he's just not prepared, and that comes across in some of his interviews. But I think that they are going to be looking for an alternative. Now, I don't know if Paul Vallis will appeal to that, to black voters. He was a school CEO, but the schools have lost like 100,000 students since Paul was there. He had
Have
pretty,
they really that much?
Yes.
Because okay, I'll take your word for it. We won't go into that.
Yes.
Okay.
He had pretty good relationship with the teachers union. He offered raises. The pensions were pretty well funded. So he's talking a lot about the need to rebuild neighborhoods. That could appeal. You could see some crossover vote.
He
from
could
black
get a lot
voters.
of the black vote.
He could. I mean,
Could he get enough
Ron
of
has
it?
tried to mend those fences, and he
Yeah.
has all the black aldermen basically on his side. He will spend the next few months, and has the past few months, visiting these neighborhoods, handing things out, reminding people that he's, trying to do things, and he can take some credit for since this time last year, shootings are down, the homicide rate is down. If he can make a case that he is interested in reinvesting in those neighborhoods, I could see him getting support there too. Most of his support last time around, though, when he ran against Chuy Garcia, came from the northwest side. That's where Rahm Emanuel won in the 80 percentile range.
And
in
has he
awards.
maintained it? Are those
Yes.
folks still loyal with him?
Yes, they are.
So he has that, but he got a considerable black vote, enough to win in the runoff relatively easily, in the runoff.
Yeah, he did. I think he won by like 6 or 7,
Okay.
maybe 8
Yeah.
percentage points. And you
So-
also have to remember, this is important, Rahm has money, and Paul Vallis does not. So Rahm could start running negative ads against Paul Vallis. He kind of charterized the New Orleans Recovery School District. There are ways where the appeal of Paul Vallis could be diminished to a point where Rahm could still make it.
Okay, so who wins the runoff? You said there's going to be a runoff between Vallis and Rahm. Who wins? That runoff is in February of 2019. We're talking like, 8, 9, 10 months away. Can't do the math. Long time. But who wins?
I can't say. I don't know.
Does it come down to what blacks think about Laquan McDonald, Rahm Emanuel,
It comes
and
down to
Paul
likability.
Vallis?
It comes down to likability and competence.
And probably the black vote, because Rahm keeps his stuff, Vallis gets some. The winning vote here is probably which way the black vote goes. If it deserts Rahm, it's all over for Rahm, right?
I would say so.
Okay, so you just heard it. You heard it's going to be Pritzker. Kristen says so. He'll be the next governor. What'd you say? Rahm's going to be the next mayor?
I said I can't call the runoff there.
Okay, you can hear it. Just the only thing you have to remember is you come back next week and every week to public affairs, not to see Berkowitz. He's like nothing. See people like Kristen McQueary. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thanks for having me.